Hey, everyone. It's a special 5 o'clock edition of Hot Talk on Wednesday. I am Zach Lynch, joined as always by Jason Priester. And so, yeah, as you can probably tell from the title, we have lots of stuff to get into today. First things first, I need to know if those of you watching out there, and as a reminder, if you want to join the conversation, you can always text in or call us at 864 643 5336. However, Jason, I am not sure if your asshole has recovered from the screwing that it took up in Durham last week. I mean, you're out there for the site, in Durham to watch that, shit show and officiating job. And really, I mean, you are either a glutton for punishment or a sicko or into your BDSM or something, because you're also going to Chapel Hill. I mean, if you thought that was, awful officiating, wait till you get up there into the ding dong, and you get screwed up there. I mean, so just give us your initial thoughts. Obviously it was a bucket list trip for you to go cover a game in Cameron. However, just give me your thoughts.
That was one of the, despite how it played out, that was one of the coolest events I've ever covered, man. Durham's a unique, Cameron's a unique place. I shouldn't say Durham. Cameron's a unique place, man. The way this laid out, the fans are just sitting right on top of you. I mean, they're like literally on your back. You have
exactly the same way they were on the back of the Clemson guys at the end of that game.
It wasn't just at the end. That the first half, I thought they let them play for a little while.
Yeah.
And then the technical comes out of nowhere, man. But it was a really physical game in the first half, and there wasn't a lot of whistles being blown. It kind of started to change after the technical, and especially after we got into the second half. It seemed like Duke spent the whole second half into double bonus. Clemson never even got there. The amount of free throws in the second half and the disparity, it was just insane. And that last call was just, you got to swallow your whistle there, man.
Yeah.
You can't. Proctor absolutely initiates the contact. He probably even travels, and you're going to call it. And you don't even call it instantly. You wait till the player hits the ground and rolls over on his back. Then you blow the whistle. It feels like a full 2 seconds after the play's over. It was just, you kind of had a feeling it was coming. Though you knew something was coming. Clemson had overcome the turnovers, still managed to take another lead, and a 1-point lead with 7.4 left, despite the 4 turnovers. you knew something was going to happen on the other end. I think Duke went to the free throw line like 7 of their last 12 possessions. So you just had this feeling something was coming and it wasn't going to be good. And sure enough, it played out that way.
Oh, sure. Proctor walked clear as day on that last possession. And then, to me, if you are going to call the foul that sent, Proctor to the line, then you have to call the one on the inbounds play.
He got tackled. He got tackled, basically.
Exactly. It's not a damn football game.
And if the roles were reversed, Duke's up a bucket, and the exact same thing happens with Clemson with the ball, and say that's Chase Hunter initiating that contact, traveling, heaving that ball up with no shot.
Oh, yeah.
That whistle's never getting blown, man.
No. Well, honestly, the whistle would, get blown, but honestly,
an offensive foul.
Yeah. Yeah. Either that or traveling.
It's just another example. We've seen it over and over and over again. Clemson's got hosed a few times up there on the back of the road, and they did again Saturday. It's a chat. If you're in a close game with Duke or North Carolina on the road, it's something you're going to have to deal with at some point in time.
Yeah, honestly, it's sad, that the ACC has, become this way. However, we have seen it since the Rick Barnes era with Dean Smith, and it's like, the ACC, they can't realize that it's actually good for the league if, there are teams other than Duke or UNC that are good. And
because the narrative out there right now is that Duke and UNC are the only two good teams in the league, that this might be a 1 or 2 team bid conference. That's the narrative getting pushed right now. You want to have a little more parity in your league than the two Tobacco Road Kings sitting at the top year in and year out. It's another reason why Clemson needs to get the hell out of the ACC.
Absolutely. The thing is, that let's go ahead and look at this. Joe Lenari for ESPN just released his bracketology, and he actually has UNC, Duke, and Clemson as the only 3 teams getting into the NCAA tournament. I mean, this is, look at, when you look at these teams, you have to see that they are playing, good basketball. And honestly, I take the ACC over the Big 12. You're looking at, let's see, he has 9 teams out of the Big 12 game. Which honestly is shocking to look at these teams and you think, you go down the line and you're like, okay, is Miami a team that could be a Texas or a TCU or a Texas Tech? Hell yeah, they are. Same with FSU. Same with, Tech. And UVA. The disrespect this league is getting this year is shocking. I mean, it really is something unlike anything I have ever seen in my life. To think that the ACC is looking at 3 or 4 uh teams in the NCAA tournament is an absolute joke.
That's because the net rankings are absolute garbage. And that's what's propping up the Big 12 at this point. There's this narrative that the ACC is so much worse than the Big 12. Listen at these strength of out-of-conference strength of schedule for these Big 12 teams. Baylor, 124. BYU, 313. UCF, 325. Cincinnati, 298. Houston, 220. Iowa State, 342. Kansas State, 180. Oklahoma, 314. Oklahoma State, 333. TCU, who Clemson beat, 345. Texas, 302. Texas Tech, 256. West Virginia, 101. Only one team.
That is some shitty scheduling.
Only one team is inside the top 100. That's Kansas. They're at 61. So they beat the tar out of all these piss poor out of conference teams they schedule, and they get propped up in the net rankings for it because they beat them so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the ACC's out of conference scheduling, you look at Clemson's, for example, is much tougher than that. They've got, last I looked, it was one of the tougher in the country. They're out of conference slate, and they did fairly well in it. It's a joke the way the net rankings just rule everything, and the Big 12 can schedule this weak competition out of conference, and then it looks like they're ruling the roost by blowing the doors off these bad teams, and then when they get in conference, they beat up on each other, and the media likes to push it as like it's a good conference beating up on each other, similar to SEC in football when these guys ain't played anybody outside of conference to prove their mettle. The net rankings are an absolute disgrace. They're a joke. I say it every year. I hate them. I hate the net rankings.
Oh yeah, all you have to do is look at Clemson last year. They were crucified for their out-of-conference schedule, being so weak. So what they do this year, they improved it. They now scheduled, Memphis and TCU and all the Alabama and all these teams, and you have South Carolina, on the schedule every year, and all they do is go out and play a tough ass schedule. And this year, it's almost like, whoever is controlling the net just like wants to do whatever the hell they want to do. Because, there is zero consistency, there is zero accountability, and there is zero right with it.
You lose to Duke, you move up in the rankings. You beat Louisville, you drop 6 spots or whatever it was. I know Louisville's a bad team, I get it, but there's way too much emphasis placed on who you lose to and how much you beat a bad team by out of conference and those kind of things, more so than there are on who you actually beat. And that's something that hurt Clemson mildly a season ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost the opposite of what you see, in football, where they have tried to, as much as they can, remove the, margin of victory from the equation, because, they don't like the idea of Clemson having to, score 100 on Furman or Lucille or those little teams. And so, it's almost like, the tides have flipped to where now, if you're a basketball team and you can't, blow the doors off someone, you're going to get hammered. And it's not right. It's incredibly wrong. And the NCAA, should be ashamed of themselves because they are allowing this to happen. They have zero, control over it. It's just an absolute teetotal joke.
Yeah, I mean, the ACC, the teams in the ACC actually went out and made an effort, a concerted effort to schedule tougher out-of-conference competition this season. Just because, of the narrative that was out there last year, because maybe it wasn't quite so tough out of conference. So they looked to rectify that this year. And, despite teams like Clemson playing well in the out of conference, it's kind of blowing up in their face a little bit because the metrics are saying they're not blowing the doors off these teams the way the Big 12 blew the doors off of Southwest, Northeastern Marys in the out of conference. I mean, that you pick your favorite directional school from the FCS level or Division II and fill in the blank. But it's a joke, like you said. It's a joke. The net rankings are a joke. You can be 3-3 one day against Quad 1 teams, and the next day you're 2-4, and then it goes back to 3-3 a week later, despite the fact you haven't played any new Quad 1 teams. That's another thing I can't stand. They're always fluid.
Yeah, it's always changing and stuff.
It's ridiculous. I thought it was a good thing we were taking a step away from the RPI. Heck, I'm in favor of going back to the RPI.
Exactly. I mean, at least the RPI had some semblance of, normalcy or a standardization to it. The net is like, there is some, fat kid, sitting in his mom's basement just going, all right, who can I F with this week?
I mean, you look at a team like South Carolina, they got a top 5 win, top 10 win in the last week. They're still they're 18-3. They're 39th in the net. They're not even, I mean, I know we're not talking about rankings, but they're not even ranked. I mean, and a lot of that's because of where they are in the net. Speaking of them, they just keep helping Clemson right along here. The more they win, the better that Clemson win looks. But I'm just using them as an example of how much of a joke the net rankings are. I mean, it's ridiculous. You do everything you're supposed to do, and they're still, until today, outside of the top 40.
Yeah, exactly. Christensen says he sees the chickens and his team doing how they start flying. That is the last thing that if you're a Clemson fan, you need.
That win looks better, each and every game. That win looks stronger and stronger on the resume. Lamont Paris has all those guys bought in to a team first mentality and doing what's best for the team. There's no eye over there in Columbia right now. They're all playing for each other. They're all bought in. He should absolutely be getting some consideration for Coach of the Year if this continues.
Absolutely. A final thing I want to mention regarding this basketball season is the fact that this team, trying to think of how to say this nicely, honestly, I think you're starting to see who they are, a little more than earlier in the season. You're starting to see, if teams can frustrate Joe Girard, that he gets, frustrated on the court. It becomes visible that he is upset. It affects his defense and the team as a whole just starts to go out. I think that you're going to see teams actively taking him away. And honestly, that was the unknown earlier this season when the Tigers were on their roll. Teams didn't know how to account for him.
Yeah, I think they've kind of started to figure out how to defend Clemson a little bit. And if you've got a guy that can lock Girard down and get in his face or get in his, jersey and stay with him all night and frustrate him, it shows. It shows in his body language. It affects everything. And right now, he's Clemson's only legitimate threat from the perimeter. You take him out, you rattle him, your chances of beating that team go up dramatically. He's absolutely a liability on the defensive end, but you know that when you bring him in, he was already that at Syracuse. I'm more surprised at how bad Clemson's other guards have been defensively for the most part.
Chase Hunter.
Yeah, you look last night, and they played a lot of zone, and they're not even getting in there. When you're going to play zone, you better hope your guards get in there and do some blocking out. And, man, good Lord, they were terrible. Terrible. I mean, Louisville dominated the boards. I think they had 22 offensive rebounds to Clemson's 4. I mean, it was just terribly one-sided, total rebounds, offensive rebounds. If Louisville wasn't so bad, Clemson would have got run out the building last night if there was anybody else. And I thought they were either going to come in pissed off, wanting to atone for what happened Saturday, or either come out very flat and looking like a team that was still sulking from what happened Saturday. And I thought we got the latter. They played good for 10, 12 minutes. And then other than that, they looked like ass. They went up 24 points there in that stretch where they played well and then totally took their foot off the gas and it just looked like an entirely different team, man.
Mm-hmm.
Can't hit from the perimeter. At least you got Chase Hunter did hit a couple of threes last night. I mean, I think he came in shooting 13% from 3 in ACC.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, the basketball team is still struggling to, find their footing in ACC play. However, the Tiger football team just keeps, racking up recruits, doing their best DJ Khalid impression,
And another one. And another one. And another one.
Because that's all they are doing is getting another recruit, and another recruit. And honestly, Mad Luke is earning his salary. He is killing it on the trail. He is absolutely, leaving no stone unturned when it comes to signing these guys or getting these guys to commit. There is a reason that you saw 2 4-star recruits, commit over the weekend. I think it is 1,000% due to Matt Luke. Nothing against Thomas Austin, but if that's Austin, I don't see those guys coming.
Definitely one of them. if you look at Clemson's junior day and the people that were there was a heavy emphasis on offensive line, and Matt Luke was able to bring in a number of big time guys. Most noteworthy of the bunch would be Davis Sanders, who I'm not sure even comes to town without the hiring of Matt Luke. You get Mason Short on campus, the former Alabama commit. You get Mal Waldrop on campus, kid from, there in Phoenix City in Alabama. You had some big time guys, and then you end up coming away with a couple of offensive line recruits. Braden Jacobs goes public first. Guy that's been to campus, golly, I've lost count how many times since last spring, a bunch of times. Most recently for bowl practice. His daddy played in the NFL. I've had a couple of conversations with, or more than a couple over the past, year, whatever it is. And every time you talk to him, man, what he's looking for is who can develop him. So you bring in a guy like Matt Luke, and there's the piece to that puzzle. He's got that proven track record where you can just lay it out and show a kid, hey, this guy, they've all played under Matt Luke, and they've all moved on to play in the NFL. If Matt Luke's not in that position, I'm not sure Braden Jacobs is committed anywhere at this point. He was a guy I thought Mike would take it into the spring. Jalen Beckley, he's a guy I always thought was going to be a part of this class. Thomas Austin, Matt Luke, whatever. When you talk with him, he talks about his faith a lot. He's a very religious kid. His values line up a lot with what the coaching staff, with Dabo Swinney's faith values and his faith and that kind of stuff. And to me, it was going to always be about a matter of timing. He had not been to Clemson since June for camp. Lives in Texas. Wasn't able to get back for a game day visit. This was his first time back since June, and that speech Dabo gave those guys, it went over 2.5 hours. Blake Hebert told me today it went over 2.5 hours, and he was like the third guy I've talked to that used the word powerful to describe it. And Beckley was ready to commit after he heard that speech. I mean, to me, it was going to all be about timing. But you got a guy in place now that can absolutely take some of that talent that they've got in that room. We talked about it many times, man. They've got talent in that room. They've just not been able to find a way to translate that talent to the field and translate it into success. You got a guy there now that absolutely knows how to do it. You got the piece of that puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. I have, heard from, players that are at, the elite junior day saying that, they are ready just to run through a wall after Dow got done. And, that is the kind of stuff that I think, not saying that he hadn't done in the past couple of years. However, I think that, the fire there he wants to see from Dow, the Roy Russ guy, the fire up, underdog, Dow, I think, he is back. I think, he has a, new sense of urgency and, passion, I guess, that maybe has slipped a little in the last couple of seasons. But, I think that he is really out there selling this team and selling this program like he used to. And, is having, a huge impact on the recruits.
Yeah, and in talking to Hebert today, the way he made it sound like, as much of an impact as that speech has on the recruits, you've also got their families in there, their parents in there listening to that speech, and it really starts to resonate with them. Dabo's always selling transparency and always, telling all these kids exactly where they stand at all points in time. He's not going to blow smoke up their rear end and tell them one thing and, mislead them or something like that. And those parents in that room, they kind of appreciate that. But no, back to your point, dude, I do think Dabo's being more visible in recruiting in this class than maybe he has been in the past 2 or 3 classes. And I think
he has to. I think he understands that he can't have he can't let 2 or 3 classes go like have.
And you also got all these people out here telling him he cannot win the way he wants to win. Mm-hmm. And I think he is, golly, what's the way to describe it here? He's got a newfound determination to want to prove people wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hard time gets in. It says score shirt down is very shirt down. Honestly, not sure he is going to score shirt. I think that he is just, I think that he understands that this team this year and next year, could be special. With the pieces that he has coming in, especially on the offensive side this year. And I think that he is wanting to show people the Clemson dynasty is not going anywhere, and that they're here to stay, and that the last couple of years were the anomaly and not the norm. So I'm not sure his score surfed out or just the return to the way he was in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20.
Yeah, there's nobody wants to win more than that guy. Nobody. And a couple 2, 3 down seasons can reinvigorate people, give you a better appreciation of where you were at during those 6 playoff runs. And you take a step back and say, hey, maybe I need to start doing this a little bit more. Maybe I need to start doing this a little more, get back to the way I was doing this. And I think it's led to Dabo being a little more visible out on the recruiting trail. And more Dabo is always good in recruiting. You can never have too much Dabo because he's one of the best, he's one of the best salesmen on that staff. And, even though, when I asked Hebert today, when I was talking to him, I asked him, I said, I used the term selling points. And, he kind of pushed back against that. He's like, there really are no selling points. He's talked about, I don't know if he came out and exactly said Clemson sells itself, but that's kind of what he was getting at, which is the same exact thing Mal Waldrop told me the other day when I talked to him, the offensive line target. Clemson sells itself, and all he's got to do is just kind of show them the track record of success, and he pushes the graduation and life after football as hard as anything. And those are the kind of things that resonate with not only players, parents as well, family members down the line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. To those out there that, thought that, after the Notre Dame game that, Dabo is just, blowing smoke at Clemson stock. Honestly, you don't know this guy, and he sensed something is coming. They finished the season on a 5-game winning streak, and honestly, like we said, last week, looking at this year's schedule, the only loss that we really see is in that opening game. And even then, the first game of the season is always a toss-up. It is always a, game where teams can sneak up on each other. So, honestly, I am not writing Clemson off in the opening game.
Yeah, I think it'd be a mistake to, bury Dabo Swinney in this Clemson program and think just because of the NIL stuff and the portal stuff that they're no longer going to compete and not make runs to the playoff and compete at a high level. I think that would be highly premature and probably a mistake. Again, there's nobody who wants to win more than that guy, and he believes in the way he does it. He believes in doing it the right way, and he has a message that he sells to those recruits. You come here, and I'm going to be committed to you throughout the duration of your stay. I'm not going to go recruit a guy out of the portal to take your spot. I am going to have patience with you and put everything I have into you to develop you. And they ask for the same in return. You give me everything you got. And I think you're starting to see it. You started to see a little bit of resurgence with the 2023 class, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. We saw a bunch of those freshmen play last season, and we saw how high all those guys' ceilings are. Now, if you look at the 2024 class, they did a lot on the offensive side of the ball. And you look at this 2025 class, there's a lot of good on both sides. It's starting to look eerily similar to the way Dabo's kind of assembled those early playoff teams. Kind of starting to you get that defensive line set, you get those skill spots set. Now you're starting to work on the offensive line. You got your core. I mean, it's starting to get eerie similar to how those early teams were put together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Stuart Randall from the Athletic, actually dropped, excuse me, actually dropped Clemson 6 spots in his way too early ranking. Clearly, simply because Dow didn't go to the transfer and getting guys. And the thing is, you have to look at it and you have to go, it's not like he didn't try. There is, and honestly, the guys that you can get, are looking for the immediate playing time. They aren't looking to come in, and get developed or have any kind of staying power. There are guys like DJU, who went to Oregon State, because he wanted to play, and then transfer out. And so, to drop 6 spots simply, due to a lack of getting guys out of the portal, made 0 sense. That is the narrative that's going to be out there from the national media. who want to see Clemson and Dabo fail because he is not in or using the transfer for the way that they think he should. So, honestly, I think that all that does is like a huge fire under his ass. And he is, like you said, wanting just to go out there and show everyone, no, we can still do this the right way. We can still, do this the way that, I, believe in. And, you don't have to go out and, jump on every player.
Dropping them that far just because they didn't sign anyone out in the transfer portal, that was the stupidest thing I've ever read. Makes absolutely no sense. So you're telling me, they wanted to bring in 2 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Didn't do it. They would have preferred to bring in an interior guy and a tackle. And the guys they targeted, not a one of them was guaranteed to come in here and start next year. So you're telling me that if they would have landed 2 of those guys, let's say they somehow landed the Heron guy and then the Rutledge guy. That's a tackle and an interior guy. Rutledge, maybe he competes for a starting spot. At highly unlikely he wins the job. Heron, he probably needs 2 years before he's ready to play at this level.
Yeah.
You're telling me if they signed those 2 guys, then you're okay with where you had them ranked originally.
Yeah, that's the hugest pile of shit you ever heard. And so, honestly, that is the reason that, you can't, put any stock into these rankings. Like I said, last week, the Tigers are going to get their chance, to go out and show on the field that they, are in the league team.
Yeah, you look at the guys they ended up signing due to the fact they didn't land anyone in the portal. The kid they flipped from Duke, Mason Wade, who I think's got as much upside as anybody they were looking at in the portal. I think that kid's got a lot of upside. Is he a plug-and-play type guy? No, he's not going to start day one, but, man, he's got a lot of talent to work with. He can be really good.
I tell you who I like Young.
He's the other one. Watch the other one. They like him, man. Is he a guy that's going to come in here and start as a freshman? No. Is he going to start as a sophomore? No, probably not. But they absolutely see him as a guy who can, come in and play center, by the time he's a junior or a senior. And guess what?
Honestly,
they don't need to play as a freshman or a sophomore.
Yeah, and honestly, if he is, 2 or 3 inches taller, he is an entirely different story.
That's what, if he's 2 inches taller, his recruiting rankings, where he's rated and his star rating and all that, we're having a whole different conversation about that kid, and nobody cares that he went to Daniel.
Exactly. Not saying that 2 inches isn't a lot. The life will tell you that 2 inches can make a huge difference.
My wife ain't got that problem. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Those 2 inches can be a game changer for a lot of us out there. Yeah. So you kind of hinted at the recruiting rankings a second ago. TJ or got his star, and honestly, that is something that I don't care that much about, because when you see this kid, the on the field, he could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He could have 18 stars, because he is a dynamic game changer. And so, that is why the star system, I think, is highly inaccurate. And, honestly, if anyone follows, our site and the stuff that you write, regarding the recruiting side of things, very rarely do we mention some stars.
I don't put a whole lot of stock in the stars. TJ Moore is the same guy right now as he's been his entire senior season. And all eyes have been on that kid all throughout his senior season. They all knew who he was. And then all of a sudden he has that really good week at the All-American Ball, I think it was. And he takes a rise. Unlike, I'm not sure I've ever seen somebody take as big a jump as he took in those final 24/7 ratings, man. I mean, I didn't think it was possible for him to get his 5th star because he was so far away from it. If you'd asked me if he's going to get a 5th star in the final update, I'd have said it's not possible. I'll bet probably almost anything on it. He absolutely earned it, but he earned it throughout that entire senior season. I mean, dude averaged 25 yards a catch and had over 1,200 yards. He consistently makes the highlight reel catches, and he makes them look easy. He's one of the most polished route runners in this class. And, as quickly as he gets his 5th star, they yank Bryant Wesco's 5th star and not ding him to a 4. Just because he didn't quite have the same kind of week at the bowl game, at the All-Star event he played in. There's way too much emphasis put on these exhibition events rather than what transpires through a kid's senior season. You look at the All-Star game Wesco played in, he certainly didn't have the same type of, or at least in my opinion, the same type of quarterback play that Moore had in his game, although Moore, he killed it all week long. But and Moore's probably the more ready to play guy at this point. And to me, they're both. If we're having a star rating system, I got both those guys. They're both top 10 receivers. Both. It's like somebody asked me the other night, who would you pick, David Ajame or Gideon Davidson? Why I gotta pick? Why can't I like both? And they both got a lot of upside, tremendous amount of upside. And they both bring something that's been lacking to this offense, an ability to stretch the field, get behind defenses, and bring some explosion. Bring some explosion back, something that has been sorely missing for 3 years now.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, if you are a Tiger fan, you don't have to pick, because these guys are all on your team. TJ Moore is a Tiger. Wesco is a Tiger. David John is a Tiger. Gideon Davidson is a Tiger. So you don't have to pick.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Why do I have to pick between the two of them? I can like both of them, and I can think they're two different type of backs or whatever, or two different type of receivers. Maybe there's a lot to like about both of those wide receivers. There's a lot to like about both those running backs. There is a lot to love about what Clemson did at the skill spots in that 2024 class with those two wide receivers David Ajama made, Christian Betancourt. I know they didn't get a quarterback. And then you look at the way they finished it with the offensive line, man. I thought they did a lot of really good things on the offensive side.
Yeah, exactly. Hard time gets in. So stars are for the fans and the players. Doesn't mean jack in the end. Yeah, honestly, I think, yeah, that is exactly right. These coaches, they watch hours and hours and days of film, throughout an entire high school career. And so, you're going to take the, or some guy sitting in his closet, going, this guy is a 4-star or this guy is a 3-star, over what your coaching staff sees. It's the same shit that we see every year, and the coaches tell us, hey, so-and-so's starting because, you know what, he earns it on the practice field. They're out there every day seeing these guys, go at it, and they're going to, offer the best guys they can, and they're going to play the best guys they can.
He's right. The stars mean more for the fans than anything, but it also means a lot to those players too. I saw an interesting tweet today from Braden Jacobs' daddy, Brandon Jacobs, who played in the NFL. And this is what he says. He says, I think I'll do recruiting totally different with my youngest son. College prospect camps only. He won't be caught up on rankings or any of that. Just go ball and destroy offensive linemen and quarterbacks. College camps only, and won't let him get caught up in the rankings. I saw a comment he made to somebody a couple of days ago about, Braden, being top 250. And if I was reading into it right, like he was taking issue with the kid being rated that low, and there's just too many politics involved in a lot of these rankings, man. A lot of it depends on not which high school camps or college camps you go to, but which, premier showcase camps or 7-on-7s and those kind of things that you play in. And if you're in the All-American Bowl or the Polynesian Bowl or the whatever the other bowl is, I keep forgetting the name of it, but the Under Armour Bowl. It's just too much riding on which one of those you play and too much politicking involved. They're a good gauge, but they're just one tool, and there's too much emphasis placed on them at times.
I liken it a lot to NFL Combine. You have these guys, show up after they have, basically, handed these teams their entire resume or 3 or 4 seasons of college football, and yet, everyone gets all excited or, who's them, for what they do in their underwear. I mean, seriously, that is kind of how I liken these, all-star events or camps and stuff. I think that too much emphasis is placed on those things and too little is placed on their actual, work over a 3 or 4 year period in high school.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't even pay any attention to the combine, really. It's good to know a dude's 40 time, but it's shuttle time and some things like that. But other than that, It's not going to test his football IQ. That's what you can only do that by watching him play in live competition, live reps. You're not going to find that in some 7-on-7 or some exhibition that they're out there going halfway. And I'm not saying everybody goes halfway in all the exhibitions. I was mostly thinking about Pro Bowl at that point, but it's just something you're not going to see unless you're seeing live reps, live bullets flying. There's nothing better than watching the film. To me, that's the best gauge.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, I think, Silver Fox makes a good point. I think, everyone likes to, go to the Hunter info, thing for how stars don't matter. However, there is a reason that your top guys are 4 and 5 star. But like I said, I think that you have to learn just to trust your coaches. What they see on film is what they are trying to address. I mean, kind of the same thing that we have said, how Dabo is the most competitive person that, arguably I have ever met. I think, that he isn't going to offer guys that he doesn't think can, perform.
And I guarantee you, he don't look at the stars beside no kid's name. But nobody's saying you don't need talent. What we're saying is stars aren't the be all end all. You can't just judge a kid how good he is just because he's got a 3-star by his name. David Ojamame is the perfect example of that. That kid is not a 3-star running back by any metric. If you watch his film, there is no way you can think that kid's a 3-star running back playing against some of the better competition in Georgia. Jay Haynes a year ago, not rated at all until Clemson offered him, and then they gave him the, standard, low.
Yeah, it was just
nobody rated that kid. Look at the Jalen Beckley right now. There's 2 services. He plays at a small private school. There's 2 services that still haven't rated him. There's not enough talent evaluators at these sites like 24/7, the National, and Rivals, the National, that do these evaluations and rankings. They can't watch them all. So there's no way that they can get them right. So there's a large priority and a large focus placed on the ones that go to their camps.
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely plays a part. Make no mistake. Jalen Beckley's a kid that hasn't done a lot of that stuff. He hasn't had a lot of exposure. Does that make him any less of a football player than, let's say, Braden Jacobs, just because he hasn't done as much traveling around as Jacobs has, or because he plays at a smaller school? I think both those guys are going to be pretty dang good. One just happens to play at a more notable high school in Georgia. One plays at a smaller private school in Texas that doesn't get a lot of eyes focused on it. So, we're not saying that, you can't win. You can win without talent. What we're saying is stars just aren't the be all end all. And there's a lot of fluctuation. There's a lot of politics involved, and there's a lot of times go on.
Yes, there are. And, if you're interested in keeping up with everything that is going on in the recruiting cycle and all these interviews that we reference, be sure to check out ClemsonTigers.com. Jason has been just turning out the stories from the Elite Junior Day. And, he has even more stuff coming. Also, want to let everyone know we are planning a baseball preview show coming up soon. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, like and subscribe. Hit that, a little notification bell so that you never miss a time when we are live. We have lots more stuff coming. And Jason, as always, will be back Monday night at 7 o'clock for Monday Night Live. And, anything that you want to say as we head out?
Yeah, I'm going to address this one other thing. It says, if Georgia had only had 3- and 4-star players with the great coaching, they would not have won back-to-back championships. Go look at Clemson's 2015 and 2016 teams and look at how many 3- and 4-star players they had as opposed to how many 5-star players they had. I don't know. They didn't have many 5-stars. It was all 3- and 4-stars pretty much. And they won one national title and could have easily won a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
those teams were not loaded with 5-stars. Deshaun Watson was not even a 5-star.
Yeah.
I mean, those teams were not loaded with 5-stars, man. They're a good gauge, just not to be all and all.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had guys, Jordan Leggett, he was, I think, a 3-star. Mike Williams, Ian Gallin, you just go down the list and you'll see, that
Mike Williams was a low 4-star. He was not even the top 30 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Clemson did some hell of a developing with those wide receivers back in the early days. They did, outside of Sammy, a lot of those guys, they weren't really highly ranked coming out of high school. They just developed them.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even Nuke, he was
a 3-star.
Yeah. And so, talent and desire and drive a lot of times trumps these stars.
Yeah, 24/7 didn't even rate Nuke coming out of high school. The composites got him as a 4-star, but 24/7 didn't even rate him coming out of high school. I mean, so those two teams were not littered with, you might have had one. I don't even know. Did they have any 5-stars?
No.
They might have had one or two, but if they did, I don't remember.
Let's see. I think it's Mackenzie Alexander.
He might have been one.
Yeah, you think, Alexander, Kerr, St. Johnson.
Let's see. Mackenzie Alexander, he was a 5-star in the composite. He 24/7 had him as a 4-star. He was number 34 overall. You got to be in the top 32 to be 5-stars.
Yeah, and then you think, back to, J.R. Johnson. He was a, 3-star, I think. And then, you have Curse, who was, I think, a 3-star. So, to say that Georgia, wouldn't have won the back-to-back just isn't true because Clemson very easily could have gone back-to-back.
Clemson's 2013 recruiting class was ranked number 14 in the country, and the highest rated recruit was Mackenzie Alexander. The next one was Dorian O'Daniel, and he was number 125 overall. I mean, those teams didn't really have any 5 stars on them, and they won one and could have easily won 2.
Yes, they could have.
In 2012, Clemson had the number 20 recruiting class. No 5 stars from 24/7. And 2014, which would have been Deshaun Watson's recruiting class, the number 15 overall class. He was the highest rated recruit, and he was ranked number 81 overall, 4 stars. So McKenzie was really the only one.
Yeah. And if anyone remembers the 2016 National Championship game, honestly, it was Mackenzie Alexander that cost the Tigers in that game because, he was almost, protecting himself for the NFL.
They added a couple of 5 stars in the 2015 class and ended up ranked number 9 overall. Deion Kane was one, not a big contributor in 2015. Christian Wilkins was one. Obviously, he was started that year. Same, and Mitch Hyatt was one. Those 2 guys started. So it ain't like Clemson was burning it down with 5 stars, man. They built those 2 teams on the backs of 3 and 4 star talent.
Yes, they did. Honestly, I'll close with this and say, I think that these services, the much better, sir, re-ranking their guys, 3 or 4 years after they have, play, so that you can get, a better idea of the type of player that they were in college rather than, trying to just, predict their play.
You always want to get the best players out there. Our argument is just that stars don't always dictate who the best players are.
Yes, it is. And with that, we'll wish you all a good night. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this early edition of the show. As always, check out the site, allclemsontires.com, and be sure to like and subscribe. For Jason, I am Zach. We'll see you next week.